I veckans avsnitt har vi med oss Mike Bennet från Airofit som pratar om vikten av andningsträning. Då Mike är bosatt i Danmark men ursprungligen från Nya Zeeland är avsnittet på engelska.
So we have Mike Bennet from Airofit with us on the Biohack podcast today. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and discuss more respiratory muscle training, a little bit about Airofit, and really help educate you and your audience.
And it's going to be so interesting to get to know you a little bit and also for you to tell us about the product Airofit. But I'm thinking first, if you want to just tell the listeners, who is Mike Bennet?
Perfect. So to start that, we'll go back to Nya Zealand, where I'm originally from. So growing up, I was obsessed with science as well as sport, which led me to study sports science at the University of Otago. Upon graduation, I was just another lost kind of early 20-year-old, not sure what I wanted to do in this world, which actually took me to the United Kingdom where I played rugby for a couple of years. And just through a series of different events and stuff, I landed in Denmark and with Airofit. So I allowed myself to really dive into that realm of science, which I enjoyed so much, as well as the performance side. And Airofit was a perfect match, which really helped me kind of grow a deeper understanding in one specific area of athletic performance.
Yeah, and since you just said that you were very athletic or in like typical like in the physical activities, were you thinking already back then when you were younger about the respiratory and the whole breathing importance to health and body, or is that something that has come later on in your life?
I really think it's something that I was very aware of from my educational background. So obviously I sat in like labs where we looked at the importance of the respiratory system, and it never really hit home because as a naive 18, 19-year-old student, I thought I was top of the world, peak athletic performance, nothing's going to hinder it. But as I started to age more, I really started to understand the importance of things like the respiratory system, and kind of my daily practice of sport and working with athletes, I really understood that foundational knowledge that I obtained through my education, and I was able to then apply it to my everyday, which then led me to be able to understand it from not only a physiological perspective, but also a whole holistic health approach, which has led me to really enjoy and understand the importance of the breath.
And how did Airofit come to be? Would you like to tell us a little bit about the background with Airofit and what it is?
Yeah, so Airofit, not too dissimilar to many other companies, was founded by another company actually. So Airofit was founded by a company named Ange International, which is a Danish medtech company. And this device was very primitive. It had a lot of tubes, and it really was just about blowing water around the tubes and measuring how strong your lungs were and training it through that. And then in 2015, our founder and CEO, Christian, he actually got a hold of it on a badminton court of all places and was discussing it with a few of his friends. And he's a trained classical singer. So him seeing the importance of breath work, especially with holding those longer notes, he decided to trial it with himself and a few of his colleagues from the choirs he sings in, which just happen to be some of the top singers here in Denmark. And through this, he found a really big increase in the strength of the respiratory system and the ability to hold notes, as well as just everyday benefits, whether that was sleep, stress management, or athletic performance. And he really deep dove into that and actually got his sons involved, who were elite swimmers. And through that, he saw the same benefits and he thought this product's fantastic. However, there is some areas holding it back, which was one, it was big, it was impractical, and it just couldn't be used in an everyday setting unless you had the space and you had a coach. So what he did is enlisted a few engineers to really downsize the product into the little product we know and love today. And then got a development team to build an app, which it connects to today, their companion app, which guides you through what to do, when to breathe in, when to breathe out, what level of resistance to take that coaching aspect out of it and give it to you. So you now have a personal breath coach in your pocket and a device you can literally train anywhere in the world with.
So how big was it from the beginning? Was it like a big tube that you see, in the hospitals when you work with lung patients and stuff, or?
No, not quite that big. It was more the length of it, really. So in order to obtain the resistance and stuff, you needed a longer tube. And just for some reference, in order to use it, you had to hang it over a door frame. So it was this big, funny, primitive thing. You can actually see photos of it on our website. So I can send you the links, and then listeners can actually go and have a look at the device. It's quite amusing, really, and really shows the innovative nature of Airofit.
We'll definitely put the link in the description so the listeners can see it. But what is the technology with Airofit? Like, how does it work? If you could explain it, like if it works in an easy way.
Yeah, so essentially we like to use the term we're a dumbbell for your diaphragm. So we allow individuals to measure the strength and size of their respiratory system, so how much force they can generate with that blowing out and inspiratory, so sucking in, as well as their overall lung capacity. Based on these metrics, there is a training program which allows you to enhance those metrics. So it's not too dissimilar to a traditional spirometer and the fact that you get the measurement, but unlike spirometry, we give you a ability to improve those metrics. So the training and measurement is done simply by adding resistance to your breath work, and then the device itself connects via a Bluetooth. So we have a little e-unit, which has a very sensitive pressure sensor, and will measure the flow going in and out of the device. And this just simply connects to our application, which then gives you live feedback. So you know how well you're doing in your breath work or your respiratory muscle training.
And you said that a lot of athletes use it and find it, they find a positive outcome of it. But is it also for what you call like normal people? Would you recommend this to the average person who wants to like improve their overall health?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually think it's more of a powerful tool for the everyday person. So an elite athlete may have some slight issues with their diaphragm. They might have some dysfunctional breathing patterns or episodes of breathlessness, but this is only at that elite point. So if you're an elite athlete looking for that 1 to 2% increase, then it's fantastic. But I always like to think if I can help an elite athlete 1 to 2%, imagine what that can do for the everyday person. The person who's sitting at their computer all day and feeling stressed, they start shallow breathing. Therefore, their respiratory muscles become weak, or they are really trying to begin their athletic journey and they feel every time they take the stairs, they're out of breath, or just that kind of fear of taking the first step into a healthier life. And yeah, so the fear really is derived from that breathlessness feeling. Everyone knows it, everyone hates it. So if we can give you the ability to really control your breath slightly more, then you can begin your healthier journey, whether that's de-stress or athletic performance.
It's just like you said, that a lot of people today work on the computer and they sit still a lot of hours of the day, and then going to the gym for maybe 30, 60 minutes and going all in, doing your workout, you really feel out of breath. So this could be a good thing to have at home to just practice your breathing. Like I said, like since we sit still a lot of the time, our bodies just kind of like crumble together and we don't get this natural breathing like maybe we used to before, when we used to maybe walk around a little bit more than we do today in the modern society.
Correct. And it's super interesting you kind of mention it in that aspect, because everybody knows someone who's been working an office job, maybe their parents or their grandparents or their colleagues who suffer from things like lower back pain and shoulder and neck pain. Often this isn't derived from overtraining, but quite the opposite. So they no longer utilize the muscles, which stabilize the joints, which then lead to pain. It's not too uncommon for this to also happen with the respiratory system. So as we age, we stop engaging in spontaneous high-intensity activity. We're not running for the bus anymore. We're not running after children. We're just sitting, and the byproduct of that is we're no longer deep breathing. So we're not opening the lungs as they should. And just like any muscle in the body or any other tissue, If you don't use it, you lose it. You lose that elasticity, the strength in the muscle. And what we allow you to do is really regain that movement, regain that strength. So then your lungs not revert back to how they were, but they give you that ability to use them again.
And is it also good for people who might have respiratory issues, like different types of, I wouldn't say illnesses, but problems? Is it good for people with asthma as well, or those kind of respiratory problems?
Yeah, so the notion of respiratory muscle training has been well documented to help with symptoms. It doesn't necessarily cure anything. We don't claim that. We know that we cannot cure, and we're not a replacement of traditional medicine. But what we allow people to do is actually control their symptoms, whether that is reducing the breathlessness, enhancing the respiratory muscle strength, or just giving people the ownership of understanding how to deep breathe, which can then in turn reduce some of the symptoms that people do get in COPD, or CORD, as you call it. And this will allow people to open their lungs up, strengthen their lungs, so then they can overcome the resistance of their respiratory tract, whether that's cough clearance, so the ability to clear that phlegm buildup that people do experience, or just take a deeper breath, empty their lungs better, and really relax and activate the parasympathetic nervous system.
Biohackpodden i samarbete med Biohackbalance, en webbshop och plattform för livsstilsoptimering. Ange podcast 20 för 20% rabatt på hela sortimentet på biohackbalance.se.
Have you seen any, or have you been through any challenges with the Airofit? Do you think that people in general are aware of the importance of deep breathing? Or are there any other challenges that you have faced now during these years with Airofit?
Yeah, so one really big challenge that we get right off the bat is, as you're probably aware, the importance of nasal breathing. It was really alluded to in Joe Nesta's Breathe book, which looked at why you should breathe through your nose 95% of the time. And this is something we commonly face. And contrary to popular belief, we are actually big components of nasal breathing here at Airofit. And the way we really enhance that is by building the foundational strength to overcome the slight resistance of your nasal passage. So a lot of people will read a book, hear on a podcast, let's go down the road of nasal breathing. Let's tape our mouth at night. And this can actually be counterintuitive to begin with if you've started to experience episodes of respiratory muscle weakness, or you just can't quite overcome that slight resistance. Essentially, you've become too weak to nasal breathe. And then this can lead to things like higher stress, you increase your respiratory rate, or if you're taping your mouth, you really struggle to sleep throughout the night. So by adding Airofit or any other respiratory muscle training, you build that foundational strength, that kind of bottom layer of strength, which makes things like nasal breathing, breath work, athletic performance easier. So that's something we face quite a lot, is kind of that educational process of, are you a nasal breathing device? Are you a mouth breathing device? Why do I breathe through my mouth? And that's exactly how we target it, is we're a 5 to 7 minute training device, and that is not going to teach you a habit to breathe through your mouth. It's going to enhance your nasal breathing.
When do you think that you should use Airofit? Should you use it every day? Should you use it in the morning, in the evening, before you go work out? Or is it just when you feel like it?
Yeah, so I actually love this question, because I could really come back with a question like, when is the best time for you to go to the gym? For myself, I like to gym in the afternoon, because that's when I feel most alert. That's when I'm going to get the best results. If I train in the morning, like in a fitness studio or go for a run, I don't get that much out of it. I don't enjoy it. I'm still half asleep, and it's kind of detrimental. But with Airofit, I love using it in the morning, because I can then just sit and have focused 5-10 minutes while my coffee's brewing, or I'm letting my dog out in the morning. So it's about finding the time that suits you and adhering to it. Just like any training, if you build a daily habit around it, you will then see the benefits. So we recommend every day, but when you train, it's entirely up to you.
Just like you said in the morning, that would be quite good to get energized, I bet, since it kind of gets the whole body going. I'm thinking with the whole blood system and all the systems in the body.
Correct. I love doing kind of a heavier load resistance training in the morning. So to begin with, it's very challenging, but as you get kind of 2 or 3 minutes into the training, you really feel that oxygen blood pumping through your entire system. You start getting energized, as you mentioned. And I actually pair it perfectly with like sitting outside and enjoying, now that it's summer here in Denmark, a bit of that morning sun. So I'll brew my coffee, and while my coffee's brewing, I will then use Airofit. And then after that, I'll just sit down and enjoy the sun. So it's kind of like a little morning routine for me, but it's really enhanced kind of my productivity later in the day. And then on the complete opposite side of that, if I've had a stressful day in the office, I'll do some down regulation in the evening, whether that's traditional breath work or Airofit, but it really helps me kind of let go of the day and down regulate and get into a deeper sleep. So not only do we have the athletic performance or the enhancing of the device, we also have that parasympathetic nervous system activation where it's long, slow, controlled breathing and just really allow you to breathe out all that stress of the day and breathe in good energy. But yeah.
So this might be a good substitute for those that might not have. I know myself, I'm like that. I can't go and just sit and meditate and just feel, try to get in this calm state and deep breathing. That is not me. I'm very energetic, so I have a really hard time doing it, which means that my body kind of locks itself up when I'm trying to relax. So it just gets the opposite. But when I tried Airofit, since it's a device, you kind of focus on the device and you focus on what you need to do with the device, and you breathe in, you breathe out, and you do all of this. So I think that that might be a good substitute for actually calming yourself down if you have issues with meditating or sitting in a yoga position and you're not quite in the mood for it, because you still get that good positive effect from it without the pressure of meditating and getting yourself into a calm state.
Correct. And like meditation at times can be very overwhelming with, you can go on YouTube and find hundreds of videos, and it's about finding the one that works for you, but also you can cheat your way through it. So you can listen to when to breathe in, when to breathe out, but there's no real ownership on, am I doing it? And if you start and you're kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm really doing this, are you going to get the benefits? Whereas with Airofit, there's no real hiding, because we have a compliance score, so you can actually see how well you're adhering to the training. And rather than focusing on, am I doing it right? You just focus on the training. It'll tell you when to breathe in, when to breathe out. And then at the end of your session, you'd be like, cool, my compliance was 80%. And then over time, you're going to see that compliance increase. You know you're actually adhering more to a breathing pattern that is beneficial. So it's kind of it helps you stay accountable for your own breath work without really lying to yourself, because as many biohackers know, data doesn't lie. So you can really look into it and get that immediate feedback of how well you're doing.
And you get the focus as well, because in meditation, the thing is that, you're supposed to focus on your breathing. You're supposed to focus on like nothing. You should just get completely clear, which is very, very hard to do when you're meditating, because your mind just goes everywhere. But when using Airofit, you actually focus on your breathing. You cannot think of anything else but doing what the device not tells you to do, but what you need to do with the device.
Exactly. And just having that visual feedback. I'm not sure if you've tried one of the like kind of more meditative where you have the ball and it expands as you breathe in and becomes smaller as you breathe out. And it's oddly hypnotic. Yeah, so we have a few sessions like that, and you just watch the ball get bigger and smaller, and it almost kind of drives you to not be aware of your surroundings. So I know a lot of people are like glued to their phone, and you've been sitting on Instagram or something, and you've just lost everything around you. You've missed a train stop, or you've walked into someone. What Airofit does is, if you're sitting in a nice, comfortable place, you get that kind of notion of, I'm locked onto this little dot. It's just getting bigger and smaller. And before you know it, you've gone through 5-10 minutes of meditation, which otherwise you would not have been able to do, which is a really cool unique aspect of that down regulational stuff. As we all know, like biohackers really just love to understand their body from a holistical approach, but also a very data-driven approach. And I think that's the area Airofit just marries perfectly together. So we have that traditional yogic breathing patterns or any other breathing that's centuries old. People know it works, but in a society such as today, when everything's a stimuli, that we give you the ability about have that data-driven approach, marry them together, and really kind of bring breathing into the 21st century and enhance your life through a deeper dive into whether it's respiratory muscle training, down regulation, but yeah, all-encompassing breath work.
What has been your most rewarding part of this journey with the Airofit for you personally and professionally?
So personally, and I know it sounds bad, but growing up in New Zealand, swimming is like a massive part of our life. We live on an island in the middle of a giant ocean. So swimming has always been something I've done, but it's never been something I've overly enjoyed because as soon as my head was under the water, I grew very fatigued of blowing out against the water, which led me to have a spike in my heart rate, which led to very uncomfortableness. And just through using Airofit, I'm actually able to control my breathing against the resistance of the water. And I have like achieved a few personal goals in swimming over the last year, which I'm very proud of. And that is thanks to understanding how to breathe in the pool, which started with Airofit. So it's a very big personal thing for me. And then, of course, on the professional side, it's the countless emails we get of, you helped me and playing with my grandkids. You helped me get back on my bike after long COVID. You helped me do this. And it's those little stories that just build the foundation of what we do at Airofit and really want to bring better breathing to the world. So whether you're an elite athlete, you're a 80, 90-year-old grandmother who just wants more time with their grandkids, it's all encompassing and everyone can benefit from Airofit in a very unique manner, just like anyone can benefit from going for a walk, going for a run, or going to the gym. There will be a benefit on you on a personal level.
Are there any future plans on Airofit? Is there anything more that you are developing right now, or is that still like secret?
So essentially the plan is just really to build on what we already are. So we don't want to be that device that does 400 different things. We want to be the device that does what it should. And just like anything, we want to build a foundation before we build the house. So as we continue to listen to customers to get them involved more, or we listen to like research that's coming out, we just want to really give our end customer the best training we possibly can. And that is just continuous updating of the app, looking into how we can improve the testing, the training, and make it more enticing for the everyday user.
So just improving and developing the product as it already is, instead of just putting new things on top of it.
Yeah, because it could be easy for us to put in some like more sensors and stuff, but then if you're overloaded with data, you're not sure what to do. And we want it to be a very simplified training tool at the end of the day, not a 200 trick pony. We want to be that one trick horse that allows you to do what you should do.
Yeah, and the more advanced things get, the harder it is to use it. So the easier, the better.
Correct. And as you mentioned with kind of the breath work and stuff, we want it to be simple. We want you to be able to sit there and get hypnotized by your phone and just really get deep into your breath work without realizing that you're actually doing training at the same time. So if there's 2 minutes stimuli and you're looking elsewhere, or you're looking into your heart rate variability while you're looking into A, B, C, and D, then it becomes overwhelming. And in our daily lives, we're already so overwhelmed by everything going on around us.
It's just like that quote you see circulating on social media. It says, just breathe. That's all you need.
Exactly. And I think that hits the nail perfectly on the head is just breathe, understand your breath, and then you will kind of not necessarily have a better life, but you'll be on your way to having a better kind of day or week or month. And that's where it should begin.
Where do you see the future of respiratory training within biohacking and holistic health genres?
Ideally, from a personal perspective, I really want it to be a kind of cornerstone, just like ice baths, for example. They've really become a cornerstone of people, no matter their background. And I think respiratory muscle training, the amount of literature around it, it is a cornerstone that everybody should involve in their daily life. So they should have, the way I say this, you should have your strength day, you should have your cardiopulmonary training, but you should have your lung day as well, because everything starts and begins with breathing, and it's the first and last thing you do. So why not optimize it to give you more out of every single breath and really more out of your daily life?
What a lovely ending to this interesting podcast episode.
For sure. Yeah. It was really fantastic talking to you and kind of hearing your insights. And yeah.
And thank you so much for joining us. Like we talked about last time we spoke, when it was off camera and off microphone, you said that we might get to talk to some of your colleagues as well, and also one that is Swedish, so that we can speak Swedish to him. So for the Swedish listeners who are listening, who would love to hear more and maybe next time hear it in Swedish, we might have another guest from Airofit in a couple of weeks, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Super. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.